These are the YOELEO NxT SL2 C60 wheels. I've ridden them for several weeks, tested them in-house and compared them against some Chinese carbon wheels like Farsport C5, Upwind Pro Plus or Loon Hyper 3. They seem to be one of the best price-value wheels out there. Is that true? Let's find out. These wheels come in a black branded box with thick foam inserts to keep them protected. Inside, you will find two spare spokes and valve extenders. One thing that's not included is tubeless rim tape, but that doesn't matter in this case because the rims don't have spoke holes, so you don't need the tape at all. One less step to worry about. My first impression of the wheels was positive. I've already tested the original YOELEO SUD Pro wheels and then the improved version from 2022, but this was the first time I held the NxT series in my hands. The weight difference between them is huge, about 250 grams to be exact. The hubs are YOELEO's own 230 NxT model with a 36 teeth ratchet. Well, I should say they are basically a copy of the DT Swiss hubs. Luckily, this generation is much quieter than the first one. If loud freehub noise bothers you, you will appreciate this upgrade. As for numbers, the claimed weight is 1345 grams with a 5% tolerance for a 60 mm deep option. My scale showed 623 grams for the front and 736 grams for the rear, totaling 1359 grams. I opted for the 60 mm option this time because the weight penalty was only about 40 grams compared to the 50 mm deep wheels, but the 60 mm ones look cooler and should be marginally faster. The rim width follows today's average with an internal width of 23.3 mm and an external one of 31.1 mm. Could they be wider? Well, absolutely. We could open the same discussion as with the Farsport C5s and their future-proofness in this area. Let's see how wide wheels will become the standard by 2026. I ran the SL2s through my usual series of in-house quality tests. The lateral and radial trueness was excellent. The rear wheel had no noticeable deviations. The front wheel had a small lateral deviation of less than 0.5 mm in one spot, still well within acceptable limits and not something you would notice on the road. The spoke tension variation was minimal and the pattern was nearly a perfect circle on my chart. I also checked how well centered the hubs are. Both front and rear wheels were very close to being perfectly centered, with a deviation of less than 0.5 mm. I have to highlight YOELEO's assembly quality. This is my fourth YOELEO wheelset and all of them have shown similarly great results. Thumbs up to their wheel builders. Using an endoscope, I inspected the internal rim structure. It looked clean, with no signs of epoxy residue or layup flaws. The only thing visible was scratches caused by nipple installation. Since the rims have no spoke holes, each nipple must be installed through the valve hole and then guided into place with a magnet. This is a nightmare for wheel builders as it takes more time and complicates servicing spokes. On the other hand, you don't have to worry about the rim tape. Tire installation was a bit of a hassle. I mounted two Focontura 40 or 28 mm tires by hand without needing tire levers. However, seating them required a compressor. This didn't surprise me as wider wheels make seating tires more tricky in my experience, and having a compressor is a great benefit. My usual go-to rim depth is 45 or 50 mm, so using a 60 mm setup gave me a chance to test how much of a difference that extra depth makes. I don't think I would be able to reliably distinguish the C60s from the C50s, except perhaps fast descents or windy conditions. They carry speeds very well above 60 km per hour, which is roughly 37 miles per hour. Crosswind stability is slightly reduced compared to 50 mm wheels, but still better than that of the older generation Loon Hyper 2nd edition wheels, for example. I discussed this with a friend who also bought C60s and transitioned from 50 mm wheels. We came to the same conclusions. By the way, you can join me and thousands of other Chinese bikes enthusiasts in my Facebook group. Feel free to scan this QR code. Stiffness is another interesting point. These wheels use steel spokes, so they are not as brutally stiff as Loon Mega, Loon Hypers or Upwind Pro Plus. For lighter riders or anyone not sprinting over 1000 watts, the difference in stiffness feels marginal. They feel similarly stiff as the Fastsport C5s that I reviewed recently. Both these wheel sets are comparable and don't feel soft. Steel spokes have one big benefit over carbon ones though. They make the wheels more comfortable. Combined with 28mm tires and lower pressures, around 65 psi for my 70 kg, the SL2's C60s feel noticeably more forgiving than carbon spoke wheels. They glide over rougher roads without the harsh buzz that's common in ultra-stiff wheels. You will appreciate this, especially on long rides. By the way, I also started experimenting with 32mm tires, but that's a topic for another discussion. What tire width do you ride? Let me know in the comments below. So far, it sounds like these wheels are flawless, doesn't it? Well, they have few drawbacks. The first one is the maintenance. As I mentioned, if you manage to break a spoke, servicing it will require more patience. It's possible that some of less experienced bike shops won't be able to do it at all without proper tools. The hub's durability is also a question mark. Yes, it's a copied DT Swiss design and so far I haven't experienced any issues. But if you remember my friend I've been talking about, he told me that his ratchet occasionally skipped a tooth when pedaling. It happened when going up a steep hill. He solved the problem by cleaning the ratchet of the original grease and replacing with light oil. A simple solution, but one that shouldn't be needed at all. I'm also not the biggest fan of the decals. I stopped believing that YOELEO redesigns its logo and hires a designer who will take their designs to the next level. But this is just a personal preference. So, let's slowly wrap things up here. I'm happy to see that YOELEO has refined its NxT series and made it more competitive. This generation is wider but lighter. They strike great balance between speed, comfort and stiffness. I would say they are almost at the same level as the Fastsport C series wheels. The only difference between them is the hubs, which feel more premium and reliable on the Fastsport wheels. But the YOELEO NxT SL2s are about $200 cheaper and $300 cheaper if you use my 10% discount code. I believe they offer one of the best price to value ratios among Chinese wheels. So, if you are a weekend warrior or enthusiast rider looking for an aero upgrade without the harshness of carbon spokes, these wheels are worth a serious look. If you decide to buy them, please consider using the discount code. It's the best way to support this channel. Thank you very much in advance. Anyway, I hope you find this review helpful. If you do so, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Ciao!